Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, we're going to explore the idea of how a flat cap would affect the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because take a look at these numbers from Cap Friendly here. There are currently 17 teams in the NHL that are within $1 million of the salary cap ceiling, and 16 teams that are into LTIR money already. Okay, this is not something that just affects the Toronto Maple Leafs. It affects more than half the league, and greatly. Which, there's been some ideas tossed around here, but I think either way the situation goes, teams are going to have to be awarded with a compliance buyout because you can't possibly plan for the coronavirus, right? Teams had money to spend on certain players, and now all of a sudden they don't. And the NHLPA is not going to like that, the NHL's not going to like that, fans don't like it, and I don't like it. So someone's got to do something about it. And just reading this through on Wikipedia on how compliance buyouts work, or amnesty buyouts, hopefully I said that word right, amnesty. I said eligible in a couple of videos ago and somebody lost their mind in the comments section. So eligible, I got it. But if you want the TLDR on this, basically direct your attention to the second paragraph here, because it says, due to the 2012-2013 NHL lockout, the salary cap was not to increase to the projected $70.2 million, so each team was therefore granted 2 compliance buyouts to be exercised after the 2012-2013 season and or after the 2013-2014 season, and would not count against the salary cap. But what happened in the 2012-2013 season and then in the 2013-2014 season is that teams were allowed to use one of those compliance buyouts right away before the 2013-2014 season started so that they could be cap compliant. And it had to be of a player making $3 million or more. I'm not sure if they would keep that stipulation in there or not. And then teams were allowed to use the second one in the buyout period after the 2013-2014 season ended, or if they didn't use the one from the 2012-2013 season, then they had 2 of them to work with. Now, I'm not going to explain how buyouts work entirely. They're pretty self-explanatory if you look on Cap Friendly under their glossary. But basically, how they work is that you're not allowed to re-sign someone that you've bought out. That's cap circumvention. And you're also not allowed to trade for someone, buy them out, and then the original team that they were on before the trade cannot sign them. That would be considered cap circumvention as well. But the important thing to pick out from this article on compliance buyouts is that they were awarded because the salary cap did not meet the projection of what it was going to be that year because of the lockout, and because the salary cap is tied directly to revenue, that's why they were awarded the compliance buyouts due to the lockout, the same way that teams would be awarded compliance buyouts now that the league revenue has been affected due to the coronavirus. So we're getting compliance buyouts, baby. Which for some teams like the Vancouver Canucks could be kind of a blessing, but also kind of a curse, because then it's just like, what terrible players is Jim Benning going to sign to ridiculous overpriced contracts now? Always love to dump on the Canucks. But in the case of the Leafs, how would a flat cap work for them? And how would compliance buyouts work for them? So who would the Maple Leafs buy? If you said William Nylander or were typing that out in the comment section, you're automatically disqualified from watching the rest of this video. And if you said Mitch Marner, you're also disqualified. And if you said John Tavares, who hurt you? The comment section is an open dialogue, right? You're here for me and I'm here for you. So if you want to tell me who hurt you down there, if you're suggesting that the Maple Leafs buy out any of those 3 players, you're more than welcome to. Or hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are always open. No, but seriously, who would the Toronto Maple Leafs buy out in that circumstance that they were awarded 1 or 2 compliance buyouts here? I mean, Cody Ceci's already coming off the books. The Jake Muzzin deal is reasonable. Justin Holl, maybe? I don't know. He hasn't really performed that well since signing that contract. Pierre Engvall, but that's not even really enough money to even really consider that being worth it. Kasperi Kapanen, Alexander Kerfoot, Andreas Janssen, those players have trade value. I mean, if you wanted to be really heartless and cruel and evil and diabolical, you could suggest Frederik Andersen as a buyout candidate, especially if the NHL were to resume and he ends up not having that great of the rest of the season. And it would open the Maple Leafs up to potentially maybe sign one of the goalies here. Braden Holtby, Corey Crawford, Robin Lehner, Jacob Markstrom. I'm just here to pose hypotheticals. But let's say we're confident in Frederik Andersen, then what do you do? Like I said, there's no one really on that list that I would say is deserving of a buyout. And if you're still here after suggesting Nylander, Marner, or Tavares, So then it kind of gets into the hairy situation of, well, how can we use these compliance buyouts to our advantages? How can we strong arm teams into giving us prospects and picks for free? Because the Toronto Maple Leafs are the evil empire and we will flex our financial might in every situation possible. If teams are awarded 2 compliance buyouts, then obviously they're worth less value if you were to trade for a player and buy them out as a favor to the other team. But if teams are only awarded 1 of those, the return for using one of those compliance buyouts for another team would be pretty sweet. And just as a refresher before we fire up the armchair GM here, the league minimum salary for next year is going to be $700K, and this is straight from the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement. And I'm getting really excited over this armchair GM because having a flat cap makes the likelihood of Nick Robertson playing with the Toronto Maple Leafs next year even bigger. And if you haven't seen my video on Nick Robertson, seriously, go check that out. I'll link it above the screen. Watch it after this one, or maybe at the end of the video, I'll link it. Seriously, the guy's absolutely amazing. But let's touch on some things here. We have Ilya Mikheyev signing the same contract as Pierre Engvall did because, I mean, why not? Except for the one for Ilya Mikheyev is a 1-year deal and not a 2-year deal. Guy is just a placeholder for someone that's going to be making league minimum because you're going to need someone making league minimum to fill out that 4th line. It could be Kyle Clifford, it could be Frederick Gauthier, it could be Dennis Malgin. Just plug in the player that you like the most there. Jason Spezza, we talked about him already. Basically, it's Toronto or bust for him, and Chris Johnson reported that on the Fan 590 a couple of months ago. He does not care about the money, so again, a league minimum contract. And then I do have the Leafs. I do have Travis Dermott and Andreas Johnsson on LTIR there, and that's just to subtract their cap hit. I do have the Maple Leafs trading those 2 players, and they would have $3.6 million to go out and get another defenseman to solidify this core. Now, obviously, if you watched my video of what could an $84 million salary cap mean for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you know that I threw out the number $6 million. $6 million was the number that the Maple Leafs could have had to go out there and get a defenseman in a said trade for either those 2 players or a free agent or whatever in a different trade or not. Now it's down to $3.6 million, and I don't really have a specific defenseman in mind. It's just someone making that or less. Maybe that player comes via free agency. Maybe it comes via a trade. Maybe it's an international signing. Sorry, not supposed to touch my face. In my thinking of trading Travis Dermott, I've said it a bunch of times already, but if you were to add him into the mix here, this decor is objectively worse than what it is right now, and the Toronto Maple Leafs want to make an upgrade to it. So if you want to make an upgrade to it, you got to subtract one of those 6 guys, and Travis Dermott's without a contract. He hasn't really progressed too much. And he would be making more money. I guess you could possibly move out Justin Holl, but he doesn't really have a lot of trade value. I don't know, but the point is that one of those 6 gotta go, and then one of the 3, or maybe even 2 of them, Kerfoot, Kapanen, and Johnsson, definitely one of them for sure. One of them has been rumored to be moved all season long, and if you could plug in Nick Robertson there, and he's going to be pretty damn good, I think you can afford to part ways with one of them. And I'm saying Andreas Johnsson because Alexander Kerfoot has the potential to play center, and Kasperi Kapanen plays on the penalty kill, and Andreas Johnsson does not. He plays on the power play, and you can find any old schmuck to play on the power play. The reality of the situation here is that it's a salary cap world, right? We're kicking asses and we're not taking names. At least I think that's how that saying goes. So the Leafs might be hard pressed here. They might have to make some tough decisions here, but the flat cap is still doable. And that team would be pretty good, right? It still does have Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander on it, and hopefully those guys can get their act together and realize that the solution for this team, the talent that this team needs is already in the dressing room. So make sure to leave me a like on this video if you did like it, and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And guys, I got it. I figured out how we're going to end these videos now. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup next season. How do you like that one? And Nick Robertson's going to play a big part in it.